How's everybody doing? Hope you're all well. We're going to take a look at U2, the albums. These are just the albums that were released. There's no compilations and stuff here. U2 have been around now since the late 70s. Released their first album in 1980. They've been a global success, a gigantic success. I would say I got into the band myself properly around the time of Achtung Baby, which I think is one of their best albums. In recent years, the band have lost me, and I don't buy or listen to their music. So this is from 1980 to 2009's No Line on the Horizon. So it all kicked off in 1980. This is Boy. This album was produced by Steve Lillywhite. It shows the band in a kind of a post-punk setting. I Will Follow us on it. Twilight on Cotdove. There's some guitar from The Edge on there, and it's a bit like Tom Verlaine from Television. You can tell that there was an influence. U2 were influenced by Velvet Underground, Television, lots of American bands, a lot of the UK punk bands as well. Out of Control, Stories for Boys, The Ocean, A Day Without Me, Another Time, Another Place, The Electric Company, Shadows and Tall Trees. Yeah, it's not a bad album. It's quite rattly. There's kind of a garage sound to it. The drums are quite pronounced and jangly, and thrashy. Guitar is in your face, quite raw. Bono howls a little bit on this. They're quite young at the time. And Adam Clayton's bass is deep but also chimey. They had a kind of a cult following from the start. They also kind of touted the Green Police flag and CND. They were a political band, really. So yeah, it's a good album, different from what they became. I think they kind of always kind of tried to capture the sound over the years, but this is a very young band from Dublin trying to make it in the music biz, and so it's a snapshot of the time, and a good album. October is the second album. This was released in 1981. The band were touring a lot during this time. They look so young on the cover of this, it's insane. I'd say Larry Mullen's not even 20. It wasn't a massive success by any means. It's a kind of a weak album. It's the second album. Gloria's on it. I Fall Down, I Threw a Brick Through a Window. Rejoice, Fire, that was another single. It's not as good as the first album. Tomorrow, October, With a Shout, Stranger in a Strange Land. Scarlet, Is That All? This is the band pictured in Dublin. Recorded in Windmill Lane, July, August 81. Image was important to U2 from the start. This really, when you look at this could be any band. It could be a trad band or anything. They were still finding their feet at the time, I'd say. But overall, it's worth investigation. But certainly not their best album. This is where things step up a gear. War was a big commercial success due to the New Year's Day single. and the stuff on this is more poppy. They're still with Steve Lillywhite. Sunday Bloody Sunday is on this. Seconds, New Year's Day, Like a Song, Drowning Man, Refugee, Two Hearts Beat as One, Red Light, Surrender, 40. 40 is kind of the kind of crowd stoppers at concerts where everybody would sing along. Here's some images by Anton Corbijn, who became their photographer, and he's a great photographer. This doesn't have any, as such, it's just generic Island Records. But yeah, war put them on a commercial footing, and by 1983, U2 were on everybody's lips across Europe and America. Next up is the breakthrough, the international breakthrough, the Unforgettable Fire. This was released in 1984, and there's a change of production here. Brian Eno, who was part of Roxy Music in the early days, and the kind of pioneer ambient music. He also produced Talking Heads and bands like that. Dan Lanois is also drafted in. This is a change for U2. The bass becomes deeper. The production is a bit more. It's smoother production. The garagey sound is still there, but it's kind of, the gears are shifted up. Sort of Homecoming is on that. It's a great opener. Pride in the Name of Love, that was a big hit in '84. Wire, that's another great track. The Unforgettable Fire, that even has kind of orchestrations and stuff like that in it. Promenade. So yeah, it's the songs are big on this. This was their stab at world domination. 4th of July, Bad is on it. Everybody knows Bad. Indian Summer Sky, Elvis Presley in America, MLK, Martin Luther King. Yeah, it's a pretty good album. For me, it's probably the best album of the '80s. It's not as strong as What Was to Follow. What Was to Follow was a big one. This is a blockbuster, the Joshua Tree. This was released in 1987. This actually made the news, in Ireland anyway. I think the headlines were such and such, and then it said rock band U2 have released a new album. The Joshua Tree is probably their pinnacle, definitely in the 80s anyway. It's probably their songwriting pinnacle. Where the Streets Have No Name. There's a great intro into that. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. A gospel track, With or Without You, Bullet to Blue Sky. That's one of my favourite, the U2 tracks. I love the drums on that. Running to Stand Still. It's kind of a bluesy song. The album has an American kind of song to it, It's they were big in the States once this happened. Red Hill Mining Town, In God's Country, Trip Through Your Wires, One Tree Hill, Exit, Mothers of the Disappeared. Another production by Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno. There's a couple of tracks here mixed by Steve Lillywhite. This photograph was taken in Death Valley. 1986, I think. Yeah, it's all about image on this one. It's a very serious image. Moody looking guys out in the desert. Yeah, the Joshua Tree is probably, it's definitely the high point of the 80s. This and the Unforgettable Fire, I'd say, would be two essential 80s U2 albums. And if you like the band, you want to have them in your collection. I know the Joshua Tree has been played to death over the years, but there's a reason for that. Next up is Rattle and Hum. That's a double from 1988. This is the soundtrack to a kind of a live movie documentary that was released in cinemas. As an album, it's flawed. You know, it's not like the Beatles' White Album or anything like that. Speaking of the Beatles, the opening track is Helter Skelter Live. Then you got Van Diemen's Land Desire, Hawk Moon 269, Angel of Harlem, Love Rescue Me, When Love Comes to Town, Heartland. This is produced by Jimmy Lovine, and all along the watchtowers here, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. It's a mixture of live and studio, Freedom for My People, Silver and Gold, some B-sides from the Joshua Tree era, Pride in the Name of Love, God Part 2, The Star Spangled Banner, Bullet the Blue Sky, All I Want Is You. That's a great track. That's one of their best tracks. This is U2 discovering rock and roll, I guess. Very American influenced. There's some heavyweights on some of the tracks, and Bob Dylan plays an organ on one track. But in saying that, it's a kind of a big bluster in the 80s, which was the decade of excess. By 1989, the band were probably the biggest band in the world, and it seems that by the end of that year they had run out of ideas. And run out of ideas they almost did, until the 1991 blockbuster Achtung Baby. Achtung Baby is a band going through their second life. They reinvented themselves for this. You know, gone was the white flag and putting their hearts on their sleeves. The band became a kind of a corporate machine, and were bigger than ever when they started doing tours for this album. They started off in 91 doing arenas in the US, and in 1992 ended up doing stadiums, and 1993 it turned into Zooropa. Certainly the biggest period in the band's illustrious career. Achtung Baby is a fantastic album, even today. I mean, 30 years on, there's some great stuff on it. They moved to Berlin, to Hansa Studios, to record some of this. The wall had just come down the year before, and yeah, this album is dense. I suppose you could say it goes into Primal Scream territory. Zoo Station, Even Better Than the Real Thing, noisy, punky, radio friendly singles that are great songs in their own right. One, which sounds like kind of a 70s ballad, or kind of a rock band ballad from the 70s. It's a great track. Until the End of the World, Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses, So Cruel. That's always been one of my favourite tracks. It's kind of looped drums and stuff like that. Great deep bass on this album as well. It will rattle your floorboards. The Fly, that was a single. Everything on this is kind of tongue-in-cheek. You know, there's a lot of name dropping and stuff like that. Mysterious Ways, it's another almost gospel sounding song. Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World, Until the End. Ultraviolet, Light My Way. Acrobat, Love Is Blindness. It's recorded in Dublin and Berlin. Both Eno and Lanois are still on board for this one. The lyrics. And, this would be an essential U2 album if you only have this. And the Joshua Tree, I'd say they'd be the two most essential U2 albums you could own. Next up is Zooropa, and this is from 1993, summer. They were in the middle of a big tour at the time, a European tour. I saw them on that tour. This was big scale. The stage was gigantic. Yeah, and there was so much video footage from it, you know, at the time. It was a big deal. That you know, it was nearly better watching it on TV, because when you're in the audience, it was just like mind-boggling. You know, you couldn't see that much. Zooropa is the bastard son of Achtung Baby. On a break from the tour in early 1993, the band started recording at Windmill Lane in Dublin. Zooropa itself is a kind of half jam, half stage rehearsal. Nothing exciting going on here. Carries on from Achtung Baby, but it wouldn't have made Achtung Baby. It's not as strong as the Achtung Baby material. Babyface, that sounds like a B-side. You know, little kind of hip-hop drums and a very deep bass line. Kind of lyrics don't mean much. Numb, that's kind of genius in one way. It's kind of a beat with a distorted guitar and the Edge just rapping over it. It's actually only for the fact he's kind of muttering. It's a rap, but it's kind of like, you know, restrained. But it's still quite cool. You know, the song doesn't really go anywhere, but the lyrics are funny. Lemon, possibly one of my favourite U2 songs of all time. This reminds me of Talking Heads around the time of Remain in Light. It's excellent. It really is. It's like once in a lifetime. Brilliant track. Absolutely love it. Stay Far Away So Close. That's another great track. That could have easily made Achtung Baby as well. The Inside 2 is where the album kind of falters a bit. Daddy's Gonna Pay For Your Crash Car. It's only alright. Some days are better than others. That's a bit of a pig as well. The First Time, that could have been on the Joshua Tree, to be honest with you. It's kind of slow ballad. 30 Day, that's a bit uneventful. And The Wanderer, another stroke of genius, because Johnny Cash sings the lead vocal on it. So yeah, they're certainly ahead of the game. Very, very clever. And Johnny Cash was coming back into vogue because he did the American recordings. Zooropa isn't an amazingly engaging album, but it's of its time, and I guess, you know, it was born out of Achtung Baby's boldness and brashness. Next up is my favourite U2 album, and it's from 1997, and it's called Pop. I just liked this, and the critics kind of slashed it at the time. I think it's a great album. I think there's some very strong material on this. I love the production. The band recorded an album 2 years before this, and it was released under the title Passengers. So it's technically not a U2 album. Passengers was kind of some songs and some instrumentals. It was meant to be a soundtrack for films or imaginary films or something like that. But it's not engaging enough to be a U2 album as such, like, so they kind of got it under the belt. This one is, I love this album, I really do. I just love listening to the whole thing in one go. The songs are great. Discotheque, the opener, kind of fades its way in. It's big and brash, lots of sampled electric guitars on it. The band even dressed up like village people for the video. But it's a bit boring. You know, there's kind of a Chemical Brothers thing going through it as well. You know, the big beats and stuff like that. Repetition. It's not their best single by any means. It's actually a disappointing opener for the album. But Do You Feel Loved is a great track. I love that one. Some great beats on it. And Mofo, that's one of my favourite U2 songs. The bass and the sequencer and the whole lot is just absolutely massive when you crank it. It's very, very, very in the Chemical Brothers vein. I mean, you could play it at a nightclub and have them all bopping. Great vocal on that by Bono as well, about his mother. I absolutely love it. God Will Send His Angels, that's a slow song. That was released before Christmas '97. Lyrics are a little bit cheesy, but I love the guitar solo in it. Staring at the Sun, that's a great pop song. Great song. Almost like a bit like Oasis. There's kind of a 70s vibe to it as well. But Last Night on Earth, that's one of my favourite U2 songs as well. One of the best songs on this album. It's a really, really good song. Great chorus. Yeah, Gone. That's another good one. Guitars are not that big. Very, very good. Now Miami, that's a very odd song. There's a looped hi-hat. And it's just bizarre, absolutely bizarre. But the part when the guitar kicks off near the end and Bono screams Miami and then he says my mammy, that's absolutely, I just love it. I wish they did more stuff like that. Playboy Mansion, that's actually probably the weakest track on this album. It bores me. There's couplets, if Coke is the real thing, or if OJ is just more than a drink, you know, it's just a bit boring and repetitive. I'm not really gone. If You Wear That Velvet Dress, that's a bit of a dark horse too. Please is a good track. I think that's about Northern Ireland. It's got a strange rhythm on it. And Wake Up Dead Man, that could be played on any Vietnam movie. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, flounders a little bit in this, but I love this album. All That You Can't Leave Behind. This was released in 2000. I have to say, I was disappointed when this came out. It has kind of more of a stripped back sound. It hadn't the smoke and mirrors of pop. Excuse me while I have a drink. Yeah, I was disappointed with this. I was kind of like sad. I wanted more pop. Beautiful Day, I always thought that was just kind of like throwaway. I didn't think it was a strong single. Stuck in a Moment is one of the best U2 songs. Elevation, I thought it was U2 trying to have a single. I never liked the ooh ooh part of it. Walk On, that's only okay. Kite, in a little while, I like that. There's almost an Al Green kind of thing. The Edge got good guitar in that. Wild Honey, Peace on Earth, When I Look at the World, New York, Grace. There's another track from around the same time called The Ground Beneath Her Feet. It was released on the soundtrack for $1 Million Hotel, I think. It's on CD versions, not the vinyl. That's a great track. Absolutely great track. So yeah, this one isn't really for me. Like I said, disappointing. I mean, it's a good album. Some people say it's better than pop, but I don't think it is. I think pop is flamboyant and boisterous and OTT. It definitely works, you know. Pop is almost like Achtung Baby Part 2. So here we have some really blurred photographs. Yeah, I don't know, I don't really have much more to say about this really. Lanois and Eno are roped back in to do this. There was a big tour after this one as well. The band was as big as ever, but this one didn't really float my boat. How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. Is that one of the worst album titles you've ever heard? I think it is. At this stage, I think, to be honest with you, the band had kind of passed their creative peak. When this came out, I ran out and bought it. There's some good stuff on it. Vertigo, again, it sounds like a band trying to have a hit, you know. Miracle Drug, Sometimes You Can't Make It On Your Own. Again, it's kind of very familiar, you know, it's almost Love and Peace or Else, City of Blinding Lights. Sounds like a kind of greatest hits when you hear it in the background, you know. All Because of You. It's kind of like, you know, treading water, going through the motions. A Man and a Woman, Crumbs from Your Table, One Step Closer, Original of the Species, Yahweh. And there's actually an extra track on the CD called Fast Car, which I think is very good. It's almost like their early stuff from their first album. But yeah, this doesn't break any new ground musically. You know, very poor artwork here. You know, this doesn't break any new ground at all musically for me. In fact, I don't know when I listened to it last. I had the CD, I think I sold it. It's a CD that you always find inside in second-hand shops. My camera battery died there along the line, it cut out. I'm not sure what happened. Anyway, let's continue. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Yeah, you know, like this is just the band treading water. Nothing new musically, and yeah, so that's it. There you have it. How to dismantle an atomic bomb. Here we stop in 2009. I was excited when this was coming out because, you know, there's always big, huge hype around a U2 album. The artwork is a bit kind of bland and stuff. Oh yeah, there's an outer sleeve. Here you go. Yeah, it's got these two kind of I don't know what they are. Anyway, yeah. No line on the horizon. I actually prefer this album than How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. I'm not sure if it's better than All You Can't Leave Behind, but there's some good stuff on it. No Line on the Horizon itself sounds like the Kings of Leon, and I think the Kings of Leon were supporting U2 on a tour. Yeah, U2 definitely borrow from them on that. Magnificent, that's not a bad track. Again, it's kind of, you know, it's like stuff they've done before, you know, the same guitar arrangement. Moment of Surrender is a great track, I really like that. Unknown Caller, that's not bad either. I'll Go Crazy If I Don't Go Crazy Tonight, kind of poppy, kind of, you know, you can kind of tell they're trying to have a hit. Get On Your Boots, I thought that was a poor single. Stand-up comedy, Fez, Being Born, White as Snow, Breed, Cedars of Lebanon. Yeah, you know, interesting stuff again. I remember running out to buy this. And I think they recorded enough songs for another album at the time, and it was supposed to be a part 2 or something. But I don't know what happened. This was the last U2 album I ever bought. Side 1 of the vinyl as well sounds quite is quite dull, you know, and the rest of the album isn't too bad. I found that it's a bit lacks treble or something. It's not the best. But yeah, big heavy vinyl records inside in this one. Big heavy platters. But yeah, that's it for me really. After this, I kind of there's a booklet in here as well, of course. There's an oversized booklet. Yeah. There we go. Eno and Lanois are on this one again. They've produced more U2 albums than anybody else at this stage. They're good producers, they're good at getting soundscapes, and they're good at atmosphere. I wonder what the band would sound like if they just, you know, if the band just, we'll say, became completely stripped back and took some risks, maybe worked with somebody else, like somebody new or somebody, you know, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I found it very hard to get excited about U2 after this, and I kind of more or less stopped listening to them. And this is going back a good bit. I mean, this is going back to 2009. That's 11 years ago. Or 12 years ago. I can't remember. I can't count it today. Yeah, but I never bought anything after this, either on vinyl or CD. For me, it was the end. I can't remember the one that was stuffed into our iTunes accounts in 2014. And there was another one after that with a boy and a girl on the cover or something. I no longer listen to U2. But if I'm going to listen to U2, I'm going to listen to pop, and I absolutely love pop. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe, and take care.